Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is your favorite show on Friday afternoon, Success Sadhana, with our host, Vesh, a veteran Bhakti yogi and author and a former monk. I know we have been missing him for quite some time now. And today's topic is a very interesting one. It's called Akiïcana, a new word we are going to learn today, the blank slate principle. Welcome to Success Sadhana, Vesh.
Thank you very much, Pavani Bhakti. I'm very glad to be back here, although I'm not back home yet. At least I'm on the West Coast, coming to you from Southern California. And I am also looking forward to the topic today because this morning while I was doing my morning practices, especially chanting, I was thinking about these principles that the Golden Monk gave to his students. And one of the main principles he taught for success, or what I'm calling receptivity, which is a form of success, to be able to receive the actual gifts that are abundant and available to us all the time, but it's only available when I'm receptive. And the first out of the five today is this, as you mentioned, Akiïcana principle. So I'll be talking about that today, and anyone can do this. It's a change of perspective, change of attitude, and it immediately makes a change in one's life, environment, receptivity, and so on. So I'm extremely excited to pass this on to you today from the Golden Monk.
Thank you so much. We are excited to learn this new way of thinking. And I would like to welcome our guests who are joining us. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Jojo, Krutika, Mansi, Mayank, Roseanne, Vicky, Kerry, and many more who are yet to come. Manish.
So let's start. This morning, as I mentioned, I was doing mantra meditation, and it's a good idea at any time during the day to take a moment to become aware of one's self. We get absorbed in our life situation and we forget about ourselves, and we're swept away very easily because the world is a happening place. There's a lot going on in it, and all it takes is a little bit of attachment to the events in my life and the sparkle that's beckoning me in various places in my life to get pulled away from a sense of being grounded in oneself. So through a little introspection at any time of the day, one can come back into this awareness that I'm actually the observer, and I'm passing through this very short life, and I have the apparatus of a human body, using these sort of technical terms so we can objectify the body and our life experience. So let's try for a moment by sitting up a little straighter than we were a few minutes ago, and try closing your eyes and coming to an awareness of your breath. And as you breathe, be aware that this oxygen we're breathing is provided to us, and that the very act of breathing is going on by a higher force, because we can't stop breathing actually, although we can, but it's very difficult. There's a machine, basically, the lungs, that's bringing in the oxygen so it can nourish all the cells in the body. So just be a little grateful, bring awareness to the process of breath. We're drawing in energy, and as we exhale, we're sending out any of the toxins in our bodies. And you can also send out any of the disturbing thoughts that might be in your mental system now through your breath. Just push them out and let them dissipate into the environment, and stay in a calm, steady place. Eyes closed, mind alert, and just breathe, relax, and be aware. And when you're breathing, you can say to yourself mentally out when you exhale, and you can say to yourself in when you're inhaling, just to give a tool to stay focused on the breath. And just give yourself a moment to breathe and appreciate that you're alive. You don't need anything else. And just be in the moment. And now, as we're all present here and aware that we exist, let's add a mantra. This is the one-syllable mantra, which is prominent in the ancient wisdom literatures called the Vedas. And I'll give a note on my electronic harmonium here. And then I'll say the mantra 3 times on each exhale. And you can say it with me and just feel the vibration, listen to the sound. It's a mantra spelled O-M or A-U-M, same thing. Om. Om. And now let's repeat the mantra Nitai Gauranga 3 times. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. Just notice how the sound vibration of the mantra enters into the ears, goes into the space of the mind. And now take the perspective of the witness and just notice that you're in a body. You can become aware of your hand, and then you can shift your awareness to your foot. You can shift your awareness to your head, to your nails, to your hair, and then to your mind. And you can watch it all going on, changing, but you're always there as the witness, always in the present, even as the world, including your body and mind, changes around you. And bring your awareness back to your breath. And breathe a couple more times. And rub your palms together to create some friction and external sensation. And open your eyes and come back into the Zoom room. And welcome back. And so we have a few slides, and I'm going to talk about this principle of Akiïcana so that we can discuss it. And as you put the slides up, Pavani, maybe you can watch the chat box in case anybody has any comments, or anybody's welcome to just speak up, or you can raise your hand, or you can come on screen and we'll call on you for discussion. I'm on my phone, so I can't see everything as well as normally, so I'll depend on you. So here's the word Akiïcana. In Sanskrit, it means something, literally something. And Akiïcana is the term the golden monk used, and it's I have nothing. Or Akiïcana, I have something. Akiïcana, I have nothing. So there's a story of one of the students of the golden monk who was a prime minister, and he left his post. And it took him over a year to extricate himself from his duties. He wanted to be a full-time teacher of spiritual knowledge. He was highly learned. In any case, he was imprisoned by his employer because his employer didn't want him to leave. The employer was a king. Nonetheless, Sanatan escaped. He got up into the hilly region above the kingdom. He stayed at an inn. He was almost killed there by a greedy innkeeper. And finally, the assistant he had brought with him revealed that he had brought some gold. Sanatan sent him back to his home, and he went on alone with nothing. And I've always noticed in this story that Sanatan, after leaving his job, after leaving his assistant, having nothing in his pocket, and he was heading out over a high pass in the mountains by himself. He knew where he was going, and it would take some work to get there, but he was happy because he had no other burden on him. And that's not to say that spiritual life means to give everything up. At least externally, we have needs, and there's ways in which we have to maintain ourselves and our families. Nonetheless, this mood of Akiïcana, of nothing, is a great relief, because the burden I feel is to think I have something. And there's a term for this, which we'll look at in just a minute in the next slide. But you can look at the contrast between these two pictures. The person may be up to his or her nose, as our model is there on the left, in the energy we call money, and feeling great anxiety and feel the burden by it, actually be choked by it. Someone else who's experiencing the bliss of awareness of their higher self, and has developed a sense of Akiïcana, feels no anxiety. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So here's a statement that we can consider, and everyone can comment if you like. The less you claim to have, the more you're open. Can you read it out loud, please, Pavani?
Yes. The less you claim to have, the more you are open to learn. Attachment blocks objectivity, mamata. The more grateful you are for what you get.
Yes, so that's preceded by the less you claim to have, the more grateful you are for what you get. So attachment blocks objectivity. This is one of the main teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, and similarly, the Golden Monk. The Bhagavad Gita starts off in its first verse out of 700 with the word mamata. And it's the king, Dhritarashtra, who's very attached to controlling something, which is he's trying to illicitly take over somebody else's property for the sake of his sons. And he's very much attached to his sons. So the story begins with this statement of mamata on his part, that he's holding on and he's considering, this is mine, these are my family members, and it impels him to attach himself to what doesn't belong to him. And he loses his objectivity completely. So this is one of the points that the Golden Monk brings up, is the more we take it for granted that I am my body, that I am my country, that I am the owner of many things, and I consider them mine. It's not to say we can't own anything, because we're surrounded. We have our body, we do have our family, we do have our nation, and so forth, and we do have things. But when we use them to a higher end in service, and we don't consider that they're mine, this is part of Akiïcana. I don't have anything. Actually, these things are on loan. Then we develop an objectivity that frees us from the burden of the world. And the second point is, when we don't claim to have anything, then we're grateful for what we get. And this is one of the tenets of appreciation, which is that if I don't expect anything and I don't feel that it's due to me, I don't have a sense of entitlement. Losing the sense of entitlement is one of the main aspects of Akiïcana. Then whatever comes to us, we can feel grateful for. On the other hand, if I'm spoiled and I feel that I deserve everything, not only do I have many things, but I deserve many things more, then whatever comes to me, I'm never satisfied, because I think I deserved it anyway. So the Golden Monk taught, see reality. We actually don't own anything. It's only been placed in our hands temporarily. It's called tena tyaktena. Something's been set aside for us temporarily and to be used for a higher cause, but it's not ours. It's not our property. If you check into a hotel for one night and you then start calling workforce to come in and paint the walls and redecorate everything, and then get really attached at checkout time, he'll be considered irrational. So from the perspective of those who are Akiïcana, trying to rearrange the furniture of our life, so to speak, in such a way that I'm going to stay here forever, is as equally as irrational. So the first point of Akiïcana is, the less you claim to have, the more you're open to learning, because you're able to look at the world objectively and you're able to see things in their proper perspective. Okay, I'll do one more and then we'll take some reflections. So in the science from the Vedas or the wisdom literature, is called Ayurveda, which talks about how to extend your life, how to live a healthy life. You can read it, please, if you would.
Yes, this is about increased appetite. With emptiness comes increased appetite. First, strong appetite means good health. Second, the stronger your appetite, the more you can digest.
Yes. So how does that relate to Akiïcana? The sense that I don't have anything means that I'm empty, I'm ready for more. Means I have an appetite for life. I have an appetite for taking in the wisdom of the world, because I'm empty. I don't have anything, and therefore I'm hungry. I once heard an athlete who was interviewed, and he said, after being asked, what is your secret? He said, I remain hungry and humble. In any discipline, if we remain hungry and humble, don't think that I already know everything. Stay empty. Start over every day and say, I'm a beginner. This constitutes a strong appetite for taking in the wisdom of the world. And the stronger one's appetite, meaning that I'm hungry, I don't have anything, I've not eaten, then the more you can digest. The more even the simplest points become profound. And on the other hand, if I fill myself up with the idea that I already know everything, which is one of my colleagues likes to say there's 5 words that block all learning, and that is, I already know that. And I may not say it, although some people do say it, I already know that, I already know that. The mind might project that when I'm listening to somebody. And there's a big difference. If I'm thinking I already know that, I can't hear with hunger what's in the statement this person is making. I can't observe it from different angles and actually take out the essence of it. So the Golden Monk said that one should have this sense of Akiïcana when approaching a teacher, when approaching wisdom, or just in the way that one moves about the world, is be open, be hungry. That's a healthy mind, one that's hungry and open to the wisdom that's flowing everywhere. It's all around us. But when I'm full, I can't take it. I block it. Okay, Pavani Bhakti, let's see. Tell me if there's anything in the chat box, or invite everyone to give any kind of thoughts.
Yeah, there's a heart in the chat box.
Well, I like that. Thanks for the heart, whoever with the heart. You just kind of made my whole day right now.
Yeah, thank you. Jay Kali sent the heart. And please feel free to chime in here. You can unmute yourself or you can text over here.
I see Mala is in some kind of a greenhouse somewhere. Looks like an arboretum.
I wish that's my dream place.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice.
Oh, thank you. It's from Singapore.
Oh.
It's actually one of the botanical gardens that I visited. Always want to keep that mindset.
Nice. There's a botanical garden that I frequent in Colorado, in Denver, Colorado. It's quite extensive, and it has a large structure. Of course, there's a lot of snow and ice there, but they have tropical environment inside that supports a lot of amazing plants. And I like to go there in the wintertime.
Yeah, I'm still not camera ready, but I wanted to say that I'm here.
Hey, I'm never camera ready. I know how you feel.
No, but this 12 to 1 is a very cherishing hour to ground myself. Thank you, Swamiji.
Pavani, what was the last thing she said?
I also couldn't get her, actually. Mala, can you repeat?
Yeah, is my audio okay?
Yeah, it's okay, but I couldn't hear what you said last.
No, I just wanted to say, Vaiseshika Desa Swamiji, this 12 to 1 hour is my grounding session. I really appreciate what you're saying. It's easy to understand, but to internalize has been a struggle.
Yeah, well,
detachment.
Yeah. It may be simple information, but the application is a little more difficult, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing this.
You know, I wouldn't be able to do it if you weren't there. So, I mean, it's a two-way street. But just about that point that Mala made is that often these simple principles we get from the Golden Monk are a little more difficult to apply once we face them ourselves. However, one of the points of the Golden Monk is that even the tiniest application is highly effective. It's something carried over from the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna says, yes, these principles are profound, but don't be intimidated by them, because he said, sualpam, even if you apply them a little bit. Alpam means really small, and su means extra, extra small. So he says, sualpam apyadharmasya. If you try to apply these even in the smallest way, they'll be effective and you'll feel the benefit from it. So I often compare this, or I've coined the phrase, the wedge principle. As a wedge has a very small side, like a knife, and then it opens up. Oh, yes, Mala, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just a little afterthought that I've always been struggling in the same context. There is a fine line between attachment and detachment. The very same thing that makes us attached to things makes us do better. But the moment detachment comes, will the quality be the same?
Well, there's a crossover point where when one becomes aware that I'm not really part of this world, I'm spiritual. It doesn't mean that we lose our edge necessarily in our profession, as an example. One could make the argument detached action, working out of duty, is more effective, actually, because you're working with a higher intention. And oftentimes when people are attached to the result of their work, then they are prone to lower qualities like anger, because from attachment, anger comes. And when we don't get the result that we want, then we can become discouraged. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about workers who are in sattva, or the higher modality of nature. It's not even spiritual, it's just a higher concept of life called sattva. And he says that somebody who works in that mode isn't affected by loss or gain, victory or defeat, because he or she is doing duty. There are these various levels of motivation. The lowest is fear. And that's why even in court, people who have been threatened and then give evidence, that evidence isn't considered because they were under duress and they were afraid. So that's not considered very helpful. And above fear is prospect. What do I get in return from what I'm doing? And that means that I'm attached to it. I want the result. And no matter how much I get, I also want to have more. Now you can make an argument that's a good worker, because we want our people to be passionate and try to move up the ladder. And a lot of the corporate world is like that. The analogy of a ladder is used. And just climb. There's really no end to it all. And then above that is duty. Duty is a higher motivator, because you're not saying I need anything in return. I'm just doing the right thing. I'm doing my job, and I do it as expertly as I possibly can. And above that even is a sense of love or selfless service. I'm doing it because I really want to serve the person that I'm doing it for. And that's the highest motivation. So Akiïcana doesn't mean that we don't care about the quality of our work, but it means that we're moving into a higher modality of motivation. Pavni, you were about to say something. I could tell that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking when you started with the meditation today, and you started saying that it's just an apparatus, and lungs and heart are just pumping like a machine. I was thinking like we don't even have those. We think that we are the body. At least I think I am the body and this body is mine, but I don't even know when this will just stop and everything will just stop. And I felt like actually we are so empty. And if that mood, if we keep all the time, so much we can we are actually very empty. Yeah, felt that. Yeah.
I mentioned before, and I wrote a vignette about it many years ago when I was taking a power nap one afternoon. And you know that liminal state you get into between a nap time, you shut your brain down just for a few minutes, 20 minutes or so, and then you come back in. And there's a little space in between that's I would call liminal, or you're kind of aware of more of the subtlety of the world. It's kind of a heady space to be in. Anyway, I was lying there. I just came back to consciousness out of sleep. And I was aware of my heart pumping. And I was thinking, what's making it go on? I'm not. It's just happening. And then I had a little conversation mentally with my heart, which was, thank you. Thank you very much. You've been pumping there for many years, and I never even noticed you. I never even said anything. And then my heart mentally spoke back to me and said, you're welcome. But I have to tell you, I'm just doing it out of duty, and I may be asked to stop at any time. I'm not independent either. And when I completed that mental conversation, I sat up, put my feet on the floor, and I thought, I should be very appreciative of every moment I have. Every heartbeat that goes on is not guaranteed. It's coming from a higher source. And if we examine our lives, we see that everything that we have that surrounds us, not just our breath, our heartbeat, but anything that we have in our lives is being provided to us. We're Akiïcana. We actually don't have anything. We can appreciate everything and we can use everything, but we don't have anything. It's nothing. There's nothing granted to us. Absolutely.
Thank you. We have few nice comments coming and some questions.
We like comments and we love questions. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll read Sundar's a little bit. If you're okay, Sundar, I'll just read yours first. I was thinking what other things could block receptivity. He's asking that.
What are other things that can block receptivity?
Yes.
Well, I have a whole list. Actually, this is a series. Today is Akiïcana. And I'm going to go through them each one at a time, Sundar. I do have a list of them here if you want me to give you a preview. Shall I?
Sure. That would be
sure.
nice.
Okay. I think that you were there when I gave a talk. In fact, we came up together with the name receptivity quotient. Right? It was a talk
That's right.
at Salesforce many years ago.
I remember that, Vash. Very fondly remember that.
There's closures, actually. The first closure is, I already know that. And I mentioned that one. That closes us off to a lot of the wonders of the world. I know that already. I've already seen that. I've already been there. Why not listen with a fresh mind? That's Akiïcana. I don't have any. I didn't just take it for granted. You didn't catch everything. And the second one, the second closure is I want something. So this means that I need something in order to feel complete. Something means some extra material thing I have to put in place. Of course, that doesn't preclude us doing the needful to take care of ourselves. That's always there. But that gnawing feeling that if I just get one more thing, I need the latest this or that, that's going to make me happy. It's a closure because what I am is more important than what I have. And the more I become attached to things, the less I'm aware of my very objective position as a witness. The more I'm attached to something, the less I can actually see it because I can't objectify it and I get a proper perspective of it. The next one is a sense of the world is against me. This sense is a conditioning, thinking that I'm a victim. but the wisdom literatures say that there's an opening where you can start to transition and see that actually the world is a classroom, and even failure or reversals of fortune are my teachers. That's a very high level, but even in adversity, one can be taking in the wonders of the world and the actual lessons that bring us to our spiritual consciousness. So those are several closures that are mentioned in the wisdom literatures, summarized.
Thank you. You
Thank you.
definitely have a treasure box with you over there. I have a few more comments here. Maya was able to resonate with the point that attachment blocks objectivity, and the example of Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata. She was happy about that, and somebody else seconded her. Then Xiao Mei, sorry if I'm wrongly pronouncing your name, she did say that attachment leads to stress. Without attachment is liberating. You can see things more objectively, shift from subjective view to objective view. Oh, sorry, I didn't read the next line. She didn't want me to mention her name, but I mentioned it very badly, so I hope nobody knows.
Yeah,
So,
we could tell. Yeah, this is such an excellent point. When we rise to the level of doing duty and we're not attached to the result, we do it to the best of our ability, use everything because we're doing it dutifully. We're not attached. Then that sense, the burden that I need the fruit of this, it has to go my way, which is one of the ways that I become overwhelmed by the world. The world has its own direction. In fact, destiny comes to us as a whisper in our ears that you're not the controller. And I mentioned once many years ago when I had a major conundrum in my life, and I mentioned it to one of my mentors, and he just said to me, well, you're not the supreme controller. And just by hearing that one sentence, I felt relief of something that was really overburdening me in my mind, that stress that Mala's talking about. And so, just the awareness, I'm not the controller. See, something Stephen Covey brought up, and he made a graph of it, which is very helpful. I've always appreciated this. He has one large circle, which is our area of concern. So how many concerns can you have? Unlimited. If you put your mind to it, you can really get concerned about everything. And sometimes people become so concerned about their health that they make themselves ill. And we become so concerned about geopolitical goings on. But he points out that in most of the area of our life, which is our area of concern, we don't have any control. Within that large circle, there's a very tiny circle. And that's my area of influence. Where can I actually, in that area, I actually can do something about the world, which mostly pertains to my attitude and my own discipline and my own daily practice. Those are the places where I can have the greatest influence. And to the degree that we can do that we can control our senses and actually make internal spiritual progress, to that degree, we can become more effective and the circle of our influence can increase. But he advises that we distinguish between the two. And you might notice when it comes into your mind that, oh, that's part of my circle of concerns, nothing I can touch, actually. And you come back into the circle of influence and you'll feel that relief from the burden. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean that you don't have empathy for people who are suffering and so forth. But find out where you can actually do something about it, was his point.
thank you. And thank you for sharing your reflection. Rajiv is asking if he can share his interpretation of detachment after you're done.
Yes, please go ahead, Rajiv.
I just wanted to share a mental model that helped me understand detachment. The word that comes to my mind is probability. And what I mean by that is that it is my job to do my job, but understand that it's a game of probabilities that I'm playing. Now, in some games, there may be few factors contributing to the success or the outcome. In other games, there may be a multitude of factors, as you rightly said, which may or may not be under my control. So at the end of the day, my sense and my desire to keep finishing or polishing and improving my art is a little less dented if I understand that, again, the probabilities will kick in and the outcome is what it is going to be. And I have to continue doing my job.
Yeah, that's very practical, Rajiv. Thank you very much. I'll tell you a place where I've heard that mentioned many times in training was, for instance, in sales. So selling is a task that requires extending oneself and maybe intervening in other people's space to introduce them to something new. And so it requires a little tenacity. And therefore, those who teach the process of selling, which requires making as many contacts as possible, say that, okay, how many people out of 10 might appreciate what you have to offer? Well, let's say it's 1 out of 10. Well, that's not bad, because then you can calculate that you just have to talk to 30 people to make 3 sales, as an example. And it's not that you have to connect on it on every time you call. So there is this sense of being methodical, that yes, there's probability out there, and I'll just stick to it. I'll just go through the motions in it. And then, of course, everyone knows the guidance that the more no's you get, the closer you're getting to a yes when you're dealing with probabilities. So this is kind of a way of describing duty in another way, that there's a sense that the world's set up the way it is. I'm going to move in it to the best of my ability, and whatever way it comes out, I'm not attached. It has to do with me doing the best I can with what I have right now. Thank you very much, Rajiv.
Thank you. We can continue with our slides if you like.
Let's do that, yes. So the Golden Monks giving these principles that you can carry around in your pocket. And Akiïcana also means a sense of my existential position, which is really I'm helpless. It's another way of describing it. So I've coined it here, embrace helplessness. It sounds a little scary, but actually it feels right. If you go back to that slide, Pavani, and maybe you could read the text that goes with it.
So it says, embrace helplessness. With emptiness comes increased appetite. Strong appetite means good health. The stronger your appetite, the more you can digest.
So the sense of helplessness is actually true. And when I feel helpless, I'm open to taking in the good advice of others, which means kind of appetite. And the more I have appetite, the more I can digest. So let's see the next slide.
It says, no expectation. Expectation leads to disappointment. No expectation, no disappointment.
So as I mentioned this morning, I was doing my practice, and I was thinking practice means I was doing mantra meditation, which I actually really appreciated today. Been traveling a lot. I'm sitting here in a home of a guest. I'm a guest in somebody's home. I sat down in a nice, quiet, clean place, and I was just doing my mantras and listening. And I was appreciating just being able to self-process, like look and see what kind of ideas are going through my mind, look at the world from a fresh perspective, and just listen to the vibration of the mantra. And because I was thinking about this talk today and a few of the points to present, and it's something I've been talking and thinking about recently, about no expectation. I thought, what if one was able to achieve this and not have any expectation? I had heard this sentence recently: expectation leads to disappointment. There's a way that I have an idea how things are going to go, or how they should go, or how I want them to go. But does the world always conform to my idea of the way it should go? How many times out of 100 would you say, Rajiv, do I get exactly what I thought I was going to get? Since you mentioned probability, I thought I'd ask you.
100% of the time.
100% of the time you get what you expected?
No. If sorry, I misheard the question. Maybe so. If your expectation does not exist, then you achieve 100% of the time something which you did not expect, which is you had no expectation, so you have a hit rate of 100%.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that helps. And maybe you could say it the other way too. If I'm expecting certain things, then 100% of the time I'll be disappointed. Or it may exceed what I expected. That's also possible. Nonetheless, this sense of Akiïcana means that I can take shelter of this idea of no expectation. Because whatever comes, this is beyond my control. The result is not up to me. I am an instrument for service. When I do it, then I may get one result or another. But as in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says a person who is not concerned with loss or gain, victory or defeat, is situated in this sense of Akiïcana and is beyond the maelstrom of the material world. So a disclaimer, it doesn't mean that the worker, the person who's taken this idea of no expectation, becomes lackadaisical about the way he or she does work or duty. In fact, one of the main themes of the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna teaching his student, who's a martial artist, that you should do it with perfection. Perform your duty with perfection, but don't be attached to the results that you get from doing it. Remain equal in loss or gain, victory or defeat. Don't expect. And so when we're Akiïcana, when we take up this mood of no expectation that I'm doing it, service for service, and I don't expect I'm going to get anything returned, then I'm acting as a person in clear consciousness, and I'm not overburdened or upset by various kinds of results that come because I didn't expect them. So let's just take a moment to see if you have any other comments or questions.
Yeah,
about
I see a
Akiïcana. Yes?
comment. Yeah, the slide was same. Yeah, there was no comment, but please feel free to chime in.
Reflection just means anything you heard during the presentation that seems like a helpful comment, something you could actually employ in your life and it would make a difference. Or if you have a question about something, like how would I apply it? Or is that even a valid point?
One thing, just few points that is that okay if I?
Please.
So just few points it occurred to me when you were speaking about expectations and so on. It was that the phrase that you always say be methodical but dispassionate. So that's something that when we are methodical and we try to target a goal, but at the same time we are flexible enough to adjust our expectations according to how the world responds to us, or the results that we get. So, and the other point that I also liked is go beyond the maelstrom of the mind. I like that phrase, and that's really a cool phrase. Application of it, especially with mantra meditation, and it helps us to go beyond the maelstrom of the mind.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
which includes the detachment as well. Thanks for that.
This point about being methodical but dispassionate, it reminds me of the concept of troubleshooting. You watch people who are logically situated, they know there's some solution, but you just have to go through the steps in order to get there, and don't become frustrated because at first it may not be available, but whatever is available now, take that step and see what's the next step after that. And that's, in a way, being methodical. And dispassionate is advice. Dispassionate means passion is a modality. Actually, it's called rajas, where I get so attached to the result and the things that I'm dealing with, I consider them mine, that, as I mentioned before, my vision becomes obscured. I don't have objectivity. In fact, I have a friend who, for many years, has worked in conflict counseling, what do they call it? Management. Actually, he was hired by the government, and he goes to different places to deal with parties that have differences, irreconcilable differences. And he showed me a graph he made, and he said, to the degree that one's emotion increases in dealing with a conflict, there's an inverse relationship of one's good sense. Common sense goes down as emotion goes up. You might notice that when you get really emotional, maybe angry or annoyed with somebody, and then the words you say, be careful, because they're not necessarily going to be ones that you'd like to be as your final words that you left for the world. And so this point about being dispassionate means being above the attachment to the results, being above the attachment to the idea that I have to be right, and so forth. And that has to do with Akiïcana also. So the mantra is that one should be methodical but dispassionate. Okay, Pavani, there's a few more points.
Yeah, there's a nice one that came. I would like to take that first. And it says that, do you have any tips to practice letting go of expectations?
Yes. Because I was just doing it this morning. The first step is to consider carefully that you're not the controller. That's very helpful, because when I think that I control the situation, I control the outcome, then I have an expectation that it should go in a certain way. And when I realize that all I can do is my best. In fact, there was a speaker many years ago that I listened to, and he wrote a book. It was called All You Can Do Is All You Can Do, but All You Can Do Is Enough. And I always appreciated the title of that. And I often say it to myself. My wife sometimes says it, it's like, all you can do is all you can do, but all you can do is enough. And so being aware that you're not the controller is very helpful. And also be aware of the fact that oftentimes when we get a result that we didn't want, at first it seems very disturbing, but given enough time, we often come to see that it was for my good. I didn't know it. Just realize that we don't know what's for our good or not. And so don't hold on to a particular scenario that comes. Just be aware of the fact that if you do everything that you can do and leave the rest to divine intervention, then everything will be the way it should be, will come out the way it should be. That's one of the ways of thinking about it. And just try having no expectation. For instance, if you're going to visit your family and you expect them to act in a certain way, then you may get really frustrated when you get there. Because why can't they appreciate me more? Sometimes you'll come in and the family will not notice how great you are. And you'll think, why can't they notice how great all they're doing is talking about themselves. But that's frustration based on the fact that you want a certain outcome. But if you just think, I'm just going there to do service, I don't want anything in return. Just even try to make that construct when you go into a situation, and you'll notice that you don't get slammed by the mind and by the emotions because you didn't expect anything.
Thank you. And thank you, Tonya, for such a wonderful question. And I was thinking the moment I start thinking I'm controller, I get a next episode, which makes me realize I'm not the controller. So I could very much resonate with it. And Subhadra has commented that she liked when you said that if we realize we don't own anything, we will be so grateful for whatever we receive, Yeah. And one more came from Sundar. On the point about not being controller, it's reminded me this verse from Bhagavad Gita. O mighty armed Arjun, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn these from me. Yeah. Bhagavad Gita 18.13.
Yeah, there's a discussion in that section of the Gita about how there are various forces, and Krishna names 5 that in aggregate are responsible for the outcome of anything that we do. So don't think that you're the only doer. There are many other forces beyond our control that are making things work in this world. It's very helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Those were the comments. Anybody wants to just show up and ask anything else?
Well, I want to appreciate you standing in here for JM today, Pavani. Thank you very much for being the moderator. And I had to scramble to get into a place where I could do this. Please wish me luck. I have to perform a wedding tomorrow. I have to do the rehearsal tonight, and a lot of moving parts. And nonetheless, just being able to think about these principles today, I mean, I'm applying them as I go, because I can't imagine an event where there's more expectations about how the thing is performed or who's going to actually benefit from it and so forth than a wedding. So I think it's really good advice for me today to take in and apply. And maybe I'll pass it on during the wedding also to everybody involved.
Thank you.
Don't expect anything.
Actually, it's much easier to be a moderator than to be a speaker. So thank you for being the speaker for today. And I really appreciate, I know you are into midst of so many things and you still made the time for us. And just for everybody's information, whenever Vesh does a wedding, there is an exact detailed step-by-step rehearsal that everybody, including the audience, people who will be sitting around there, what each of them have to do, he rehearses it. And I always feel like, how does he do it? And it's a total perfectionism that he's perfect in everything. So I learned so much from you. You are perfectionist, and even if I can get a little bit of it, will make my life successful. But thank you for always inspiring us and being here for us.
Well, today you're the encourager in chief, Pavani. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I really appreciate it. I was really touched, Mala, with your statements earlier about how this is a time when you're able to get some sense of relief. I don't know if that's the word you used, but whatever it was touching because you appreciate it. We appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for coming into this space. And I was reminded recently by a friend that in the Himalayas, there are yogis who sit in caves trying to access their higher self and connect with the Supreme. And they come out of their caves every once in a while, and they'll notice one another on the tips of the peaks as they move about. And when they see one another, they feel a camaraderie. So they raise their hands way high in the air, and there's this phrase they yell out across the canyons, which is Hari Bol, which means keep the transcendental vibration going. So since we're in a cave-like situation here, but we're coming out to see one another, let's try to give some encouragement by saying Haribo.
Haribo.
Haribo. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Haribo.